Ambassador Laura Mitchell stood in the center of the great hall and looked at the faces around her. 12 species sat in their floating chairs, their eyes cold and distant. She had spoken for 3 hours. She had begged. She had offered everything humanity had. And now she waited for their answer. The swarm was coming. Every sensor station in the galaxy had confirmed it. Billions of creatures moved through space like a dark cloud, eating everything in their path. They had already destroyed 4 civilizations on the outer rim. In 6 months, they would reach Council space. Laura had come with a simple offer. Humanity would send every ship, every soldier, every resource to fight the swarm. All they asked was for the Council to stand with them. Counselor and of the Empire rose from his chair. His blue skin shimmered under the lights, and his 4 eyes looked down at Laura with something that might have been pity. "The Council has voted," he said. "Your offer is rejected." Laura felt her heart stop. Rejected. The swarm will kill us all if we do not fight together. The Council has made other arrangements, and pressed a button on his chair. A map appeared in the air above them all. It showed the galaxy, with Earth and its colonies marked in red. Human space will serve as a buffer zone. The swarm will spend years consuming your worlds. This will give us time to prepare our true defenses. The words did not make sense at first. Laura stared at the map, at the red dots that represented billions of human lives. "You are going to sacrifice us." "We are going to survive," and said. "Your species has served its purpose. You were useful workers, adequate soldiers, and acceptable scientists, but you are not essential. The Council thanks you for your 80 years of service." Laura stepped forward. "You cannot do this. We trusted you. We fought your wars. We healed your sick. We built your stations. And now you will die for us," and said simply, "Guards, remove her." 2 armored soldiers grabbed Laura by the arms. She fought against them, screaming words that echoed through the great hall, but the Council members had already turned away. To them, the matter was finished. Humanity was already dead. 3 days later, Admiral Daniel Carter received the transmission. He sat alone in his quarters aboard the command station orbiting Mars. The message had come through encrypted channels, smuggled out by a sympathetic alien diplomat. It contained the full recording of the Council vote, the strategic plans, and the orders already sent to Council ships. Those orders were simple. Evacuate all non-human personnel from human colonies. Leave nothing behind that the swarm could use, and under no circumstances help any human escape. Daniel watched the recording 3 times. He saw Laura dragged away. He heard Anne's cold words. He read the documents that revealed the truth. The Council had planned this for decades. Humanity was never meant to be a partner. They were meant to be a tool, used and then thrown away. Dr. Dawson found him an hour later. She was his oldest friend, his most trusted advisor. She had served beside him for 20 years. When she saw his face, she knew something terrible had happened. "Daniel," she said softly, "what is it?" He handed her the tablet without a word. She read it in silence. When she finished, her hands were shaking. "They are going to let us die," she whispered. "Yes. All of us, every colony, every station, Earth itself." "Yes." Sat down heavily. "What do we do?" Daniel stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the red surface of Mars, the planet humanity had worked so hard to transform. He could see the ships moving between stations, carrying people who did not know they had been condemned to death. "The Council thinks we are weak," he said. "They think we are few. They think they know everything about us." "They have monitored us for 80 years, said. "They do know everything about us." Daniel turned to face her. There was something in his eyes she had never seen before. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was certainty. "No," he said. "They know what we let them see." He walked to his desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a small key, old and worn. He had carried it for 30 years, given to him by his father, who had received it from his father before him. "What is that?" asked. "A secret," Daniel said, "passed down through the military for generations. We always knew this day might come. We always knew the council might betray us, so we prepared." He inserted the key into a hidden panel on his desk. A screen appeared, showing coordinates and fleet positions that had never seen before. "For 40 years we have been building in secret," Daniel explained. "Hidden shipyards in asteroid fields, weapons developed in underground labs, technology we reverse-engineered from Council systems and then improved. The Council thinks we have 300 ships. We have 3,000. Stared at the screen, 3,000. And soldiers and weapons, and plans for every possible scenario, including this one. Daniel closed the screen and looked at her. "The question is not whether we can fight. The question is what kind of people we want to be when the fighting is done." He opened a communication channel. It was encrypted on frequencies the Council did not know existed. Within seconds, faces appeared on his screen. Captains, generals, commanders, all of them had the same look in their eyes. All of them had received the same news. "This is Admiral Daniel Carter," he said. "You have all seen the truth. The Galactic Council has betrayed humanity. They have condemned our families, our homes, and our future. They believe we will go quietly into the dark." He paused and let the words settle. "They are wrong. All ships, abandon your Council-assigned positions. Proceed to the coordinates being transmitted now. Tell no one, trust no alien vessel, and prepare for war." He ended the transmission and turned back to the window. Somewhere out there, Laura was in a Council prison. Somewhere out there, the swarm was getting closer. And somewhere out there, humanity was about to show the galaxy what happened when you tried to sacrifice the wrong species. Daniel Carter had one thought as he watched the stars. They wanted us gone. Now they will learn why that was a mistake. The coordinates led to a place that did not exist on any map. It was a region of space filled with dense asteroid fields and old nebulae, a place where sensors failed and navigation was nearly impossible. The Council had marked it as worthless centuries ago and forgotten about it. That was exactly what humanity had wanted. Captain Cole guided his ship, the Resolute, through the twisting maze of rocks and dust. He had been flying for 3 days, following encrypted signals that changed every hour. His crew was tired. His ship was running low on supplies. But when they finally emerged from the last asteroid field, every person on the bridge stopped breathing. Ships filled the space before them. Thousands of ships, carriers and destroyers and cruisers and vessels that had never seen before. They hung in perfect formation around a massive station that looked like it had been carved from a moon. "By all the stars," his navigator whispered, "how long has this been here?" Did not answer. He was too busy counting the ships. The Council believed humanity had a small fleet, barely enough to defend their own colonies. This was something else entirely. This was an armada. A communication signal came through. "Resolute, you are cleared to dock at Station Prime. Admiral Carter is expecting you." Docked his ship and made his way through the station. Everywhere he looked, he saw people working. Engineers built weapons. Scientists studied data. Soldiers trained in combat rooms. The station was alive with purpose, and everyone moved with the same quiet determination. Admiral Daniel Carter met him in a large conference room. General Torres was there, commander of all ground forces. Commander Bradley, head of intelligence, stood near a wall of screens, and Dr. Dawson sat at the table with tablets spread before her. "Captain Cole," Daniel said, "thank you for coming. Please sit." Took a seat and looked around the room. "I have a lot of questions." "I imagine you do." Daniel nodded to Bradley. "Show him." Pressed a button and images appeared on the screens. Documents, recordings, communications between Council members dating back 50 years. "The Council never intended to accept humanity as equals," explained. From the beginning, we were meant to be temporary. They gave us technology, but only enough to make us dependent. They invited us to join their military, but only so we would fight their wars. And all along, they were planning for the day when they would no longer need us. Watch the evidence scroll past. He saw council members discussing humanity like animals to be managed. He saw plans to keep humans isolated from certain technologies. He saw the vote to sacrifice Earth, recorded years before the swarm ever appeared. They were waiting for an excuse, he said quietly. The swarm gave them one, Daniel confirmed. But we knew this was coming. For 40 years, a secret branch of our military has been preparing. We hid shipyards in places the council never looked. We stole their technology and made it better. We trained soldiers they never counted. Everything you see here is the result of 4 decades of careful work. General Torres stepped forward. We have 3,000 combat-ready ships, 2 million soldiers, weapons the Council has never seen, and we have something else. She looked at Dawson. The scientist stood and walked to the main screen. 20 years ago, I led a research team studying the swarm, said. The Council shut down our project when we got too close to a solution. They said it was too dangerous, but we kept working in secret. She displayed a diagram on the screen. It showed a complex signal pattern that pulsed like a heartbeat. The swarm operates through a hive mind. Every creature is connected to every other creature through a specific frequency. If you disrupt that frequency, the connection breaks. The creatures become confused, disorganized, helpless. She paused. We call it the final command, a signal that can destroy the swarm entirely. Stared at the diagram. You have a weapon that can end the swarm. Yes, but it requires deployment from within swarm territory. Someone would have to fly directly into their heart and transmit the signal from there. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Whoever carried the final command would not be coming back. Daniel spoke again. Before we discuss the swarm, we have another mission. Ambassador Mitchell is being held in a council detention facility on the planet. We are going to rescue her. The council will see that as an act of war, said. The council already declared war when they voted to kill us, Daniel replied. We are simply responding. Thought about everything he had seen and heard. He thought about his family on Earth, unaware that they had been sentenced to death. He thought about the friends he had lost in council wars, fighting for people who never valued their sacrifice. What do you need me to do? He asked. Daniel smiled for the first time. Lead the rescue team, get Laura Mitchell out, and then help us show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. 3 days later, 12 ships dropped out of hyperspace above. They moved fast and silent, slipping past orbital defenses that were not designed to stop human technology. Within an hour, they reached the detention facility. Sergeant Tyler Grant led his team through the corridors. The guards were not prepared for human soldiers who moved like ghosts and fought like demons. By the time alarms sounded, Tyler had already found the cell. Laura Mitchell looked up when the door opened. She was thin and tired, but her eyes still burned with fire. Admiral Carter sent us, Tyler said. Time to go home. Laura stood slowly. Home. The Council will hunt us to the end of the galaxy. Tyler smiled. Let them try. They have no idea what is coming. As the rescue ships fled into hyperspace, Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of Station Prime. Around him, the full human fleet was assembled. 3,000 ships ready for war. He opened a channel that would broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. This is Admiral Daniel Carter of the United Human Fleet. The Galactic Council betrayed humanity. They voted to sacrifice our species to save themselves. We have the evidence. We have the truth. And now we have a choice to make. He paused and looked at the stars. The Council called us their shield. They were right, but shields are forged in fire, and now they will learn what happens when the fire turns against them. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, billions of beings heard the message. And for the first time, the Galactic Council felt something they had never experienced before. Fear, Counselor, and watched the human broadcast for the third time. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he tried to understand what he was seeing. Behind him, the other council members argued in loud voices, blaming each other for the leak. "This changes nothing," and said finally. The room fell silent. "The humans are making noise. That is all they can do. Our fleet outnumbers them 10 to 1. Our technology is superior. They are simply trying to frighten us before the end." "But the other species are asking questions," said Counselor of the Collective. "They want to know if we plan to sacrifice them as well." "Tell them whatever they need to hear," and waved his hand dismissively. "The humans will be dealt with, and the galaxy will forget this ever happened." He sent orders to the Council Armada. 5,000 ships would move to surround human space. The blockade would be complete. No human would escape, and the swarm would finish what the Council started. But when the Armada arrived at the border of human space, they found nothing. No resistance, no human ships. The colonies were empty. The stations were abandoned. Billions of humans had simply vanished. Where did they go? And demanded. No one could answer. 3 weeks passed. The swarm continued its approach, moving through the outer territories and destroying everything in its path. The Council expected humanity to fight anyway. Even if they were angry, surely they would defend their own species against extinction. Humanity did nothing. Admiral Daniel Carter sat in his command chair aboard Station Prime and watched the reports come in. The swarm had reached the first Council border world. The defenses there were weak because the Council had always relied on human soldiers to hold the line. Without humans, the defenses crumbled in hours. "They are calling for help," Lieutenant Price reported from her communication station. Her voice was flat. She had lost her entire family when the Council evacuated human colonies and left civilians behind. She felt no sympathy for Council worlds now. "Let me guess," Daniel said. "They want us to save them." "Several Council species have transmitted requests for military assistance. They are offering payment, territory, anything we want." Daniel shook his head. "Tell them we are busy." Ambassador Laura Mitchell stood beside him. She had recovered from her imprisonment, though the experience had changed her. She no longer believed in diplomacy with beings who saw humans as disposable tools. "The Collective is breaking from the Council," she said, reading from her tablet. "They are publicly apologizing for the vote and asking for separate negotiations." "Too little, too late," Daniel replied. "They voted to kill us. They do not get to apologize when they realize they need us." More days passed. More worlds fell. The swarm ate through Council space like fire through dry wood. And still, humanity watched and waited. Commander Amy Reeves led patrol flights along the edges of human territory. Her squadron had earned the nickname the Ghosts because of how silently they moved through space. She had fought in a dozen Council wars, always told that she was protecting civilization. Now she knew the truth. She had been protecting beings who saw her as nothing more than a useful animal. "Commander," one of her pilots said, "Council ship approaching. It looks damaged." Amy checked her sensors. A small transport was limping toward human space, its engines failing and its hull covered in burn marks. It had clearly escaped from a swarm attack. "Scan for weapons," she ordered. None detected. Life signs show 43 beings aboard, mixed species, mostly civilians. Amy thought for a moment. The Council had abandoned humanity to die. Every instinct told her to let this ship drift until its air ran out. But she thought about the civilians inside. Children, maybe, families, people who had no say in what their leaders did. "Bring them in," she said finally. "Send them to Refugee Station 7. "Commander, are you sure?" "I am not like them," Amy said quietly. "That is the whole point." The refugee stations were something Daniel Carter had ordered built in secret. He knew that when the council fell, innocent beings would suffer. Children would be orphaned. Families would be destroyed. Humanity would not save the council, but they would save whoever they could. Back on the council capital world of, panic was spreading and had lost control. Species were fleeing the Alliance. Military commanders were refusing orders. The great civilization that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years was crumbling in weeks. And made one final attempt. He sent a personal message to Admiral Carter. "Name your price," he said. "Territory, technology, wealth, anything you want is yours, just help us stop the swarm." Daniel read the message and showed it to Laura. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think he would promise us anything and then betray us again the moment the danger passed." Laura's voice was cold. "He has not changed. He is simply scared." Daniel nodded. He opened a channel and broadcast his response to the entire galaxy. "Counselor and offers us a deal. Territory, technology, wealth, everything the council us for 80 years suddenly offered because they are afraid." He paused and let the words settle. "But we do not want their gifts. We want something they never thought to give us: respect, truth, equality. And those things cannot be bought. They must be earned." He ended the broadcast and turned to his crew. "Continue holding position. The council made their choice. Now they must live with it." On and watched the message with growing rage. He had underestimated humans once. He would not do it again. If they would not help willingly, he would force them. He sent his best assassin to kill Admiral Carter, a shadow warrior trained since birth, capable of slipping through any security. The assassin reached Station Prime without being detected. He found the Admiral's quarters. He raised his blade. And then the lights came on. Sergeant Tyler Grant stood behind him with a weapon pressed to the assassin's head. 12 human soldiers surrounded them, having known exactly where the assassin would be before he even arrived. "The Admiral knew you were coming before you left," Tyler said. "We have been watching your communications for decades. Did you really think we would not be ready?" The assassin was taken to a cell. The evidence of the assassination attempt was added to the growing case against the council. Daniel stood at his window and looked at the stars. The swarm was getting closer. The council was falling apart, and soon humanity would have to make the hardest choice of all. Save the galaxy that tried to kill them, or let it burn. He already knew what his answer would be, but he wanted his people to make the choice together. That was what made humans different. They did not follow blindly. They decided together. And whatever they decided, they would face it as one. The galaxy was dying, and the council finally understood why. For 80 years, humans had done the work that no one else wanted to do. They had served as doctors in hospitals across 100 worlds. They had built the machines that kept cities running. They had maintained the shields that protected space stations. They had grown the food, fixed the engines, and healed the sick. The council had called them useful but not essential. Now they learned how wrong they were. Without human medical teams, diseases spread through refugee camps. A simple illness that human doctors had cured in minutes became a deadly plague. Thousands died waiting for treatment that never came. Without human engineers, power grids failed. Water systems broke down. Communication networks went silent. Worlds that had enjoyed perfect comfort for centuries suddenly found themselves in darkness. Without human soldiers, the swarm advanced without resistance. Council armies had always relied on human units to hold the difficult positions. Now those positions were empty, and the swarm poured through like water through broken walls. Admiral Daniel Carter watched the reports in silence. Beside him, Dr. Dawson tracked the movement of the swarm across her screens. The creatures had consumed 12 major worlds and were moving toward the council capital. "They have maybe 6 weeks," said quietly. "Maybe less. The swarm is moving faster than our models predicted." And the council, Daniel asked. Falling apart. 3 more species abandoned the alliance today, and has declared martial law on, but no one is listening to him anymore. Daniel nodded slowly. He had expected this. He had planned for it, but watching it happen was different from imagining it. How are the refugee stations? Full, replied. We have taken in over 2 million beings from council space. Families mostly, children, the innocent ones who had no part in what their leaders did. Daniel walked to the window and looked out at the fleet. 3,000 ships waited in formation, ready for whatever order he gave. They could save the galaxy or watch it burn. The choice was his. I want to hold a vote, he said. Looked up a vote. Every human in the fleet, every civilian in our territory, everyone who was condemned to die by the council's decision. I want them to vote on what we do next. Daniel, that could take days. We do not have days. We have enough. He turned to face her. I will not make this choice alone. We are not the council. We do not decide the fate of billions without asking the people who will have to live with that decision. The vote was organized in 48 hours. Communication channels opened across human space. On ships and stations, in hidden colonies and refugee camps, humans gathered to hear the question and give their answer. Admiral Carter broadcast the message himself. My fellow humans, he began, you know what the council did to us. You know they voted to sacrifice our species. You know they left our families to die so they could save themselves. And now, you know they are losing the war against the swarm. He paused and let the words settle. We have the power to save them. Dr. Dawson and her team developed a weapon called the Final Command. It is a signal that can destroy the swarm entirely by disrupting their hive-mind connection. If we deploy this weapon, we can end the threat forever. The galaxy will survive. Another pause. But deploying the weapon requires flying into the heart of swarm territory. It will cost lives, human lives. We will save beings who tried to kill us, using the blood of our own people. He looked directly at the camera. So I am asking you, should we save them? Should we risk everything for a galaxy that threw us away? Or should we protect ourselves and let the council face the consequences of their choices? The vote lasted 12 hours. Humans across the galaxy sent their answers through encrypted channels. Soldiers voted between patrol shifts. Civilians voted in crowded shelters. Even children old enough to understand were allowed to give their opinions. When the count was finished, brought the results to Daniel. 62% voted to save them, she said. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. 62%. The message is clear. We help those who need us even if they do not deserve it. Set down the tablet. That is who we are. Daniel opened his eyes and smiled sadly. I knew we would vote this way. I just needed everyone else to know it too. He called his commanders together. General Torres, Commander Bradley, Captain Cole, Lieutenant Price, and Dr. Dawson, who would guide them through the most dangerous mission in human history. We are going to save the galaxy, Daniel announced. But we are doing it our way. No deals with the council. No compromise with beings who betrayed us. We will stop the swarm because it is the right thing to do, not because they asked us to. Captain Cole stepped forward. The Resolute is ready, Admiral. My crew volunteers to carry the Final Command into swarm territory. Daniel shook his head. I cannot ask you to do that. Whoever carries that signal is not coming back. You are not asking, I am offering. Looked around at his fellow officers. We all are. Every ship in this fleet would volunteer for this mission. But the Resolute is the fastest and the best armed. We have the highest chance of reaching the center. Daniel wanted to argue. He wanted to find another way, but he knew was right. Then I am coming with you, Daniel said. The room fell silent. Admiral, you cannot, protested. If you die, who will lead us? If I ask my people to die, I should be willing to die beside them. Daniel's voice was firm. "Laura will lead the fleet in my absence, and if I do not return, she will guide humanity into whatever future comes next." He looked at each of his officers in turn. "Prepare the fleet. We move at dawn." As the commanders left to give their orders, stayed behind. She walked to Daniel and took his hand. "I always knew you would make this choice," she said softly. "Does that make me predictable?" "It makes you human," she squeezed his hand, "and that is why we follow you." Daniel squeezed back. Tomorrow he would fly into the heart of darkness to save beings who had tried to destroy his people. He might not survive, but if he fell, he would fall knowing that humanity had chosen mercy over vengeance. And that was a legacy worth dying for. The Resolute flew into hell. All around the ship, the swarm filled space like a living storm. Billions of creatures moved together, their bodies blocking out the stars. They sensed the human vessel immediately and turned to attack. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge beside Captain Cole. Behind them, the crew worked with calm focus, each person knowing that they might not survive the next hour. "Enemy contacts approaching from all directions," the sensor officer reported. "Too many to count." "Hold course," ordered. "All power to forward shields." The Resolute was not alone. 200 human ships had volunteered for the mission, knowing they would need to clear a path for the command vessel. Now those ships spread out in formation, their weapons firing in every direction. Commander Amy Reeves led the fighter squadrons. Her voice crackled over the communication channel. "Ghost Squadron engaging. We will keep them off your back, Resolute. Just get to the center." The battle was unlike anything humans had ever fought. Swarm creatures crashed against shields and tore at hulls. Human ships exploded in flashes of light. But for every human vessel that fell, dozens of swarm creatures died with it. Daniel watched the destruction and felt the weight of every death. These were his people. They were dying because he had asked them to. Admiral Dawson called from her station. "I am detecting the central node, the heart of the hive mind. It is directly ahead, approximately 2 million kilometers. Time to reach it. At current speed, 12 minutes, but the swarm concentration is increasing. I do not know if we can break through." Turn to Daniel. "We will break through. That is what humans do." The next 12 minutes were the longest of Daniel's life. Ships fell around them. Friends died in fire and silence. The Resolute took hit after hit, its shields failing and its hull cracking, but still they pushed forward. When they reached the final barrier, only 30 human ships remained. The swarm had formed a wall of bodies around the central node, protecting the heart of their hive mind with everything they had. Looked at the readings and shook his head. "We cannot break through. There are too many." Daniel studied the formation. He saw the density of the swarm creatures. He calculated the firepower needed to create an opening, and he knew what had to be done. He said quietly, "Someone needs to ram the wall." The bridge fell silent. "A ship at full speed could create a gap large enough for the Resolute to slip through," Daniel continued. "But whoever does it will not survive the impact." His face was pale but determined. "I will do it. Transfer the final command to another vessel and let me clear the path." "No," Daniel shook his head. "You are the best pilot we have. You need to fly the Resolute through the gap." He turned to, "Transfer the signal to the secondary transmitter. I am taking a shuttle." Daniel grabbed his arm. "There has to be another way." "There is not, and we are out of time." He looked at her with eyes full of love and sadness. "You know I am right." Wanted to argue. She wanted to scream and cry and refuse to let him go. But she saw the certainty in his face, and she knew that nothing she said would change his mind. "Then I am coming with you," she said. "Do not argue. If this is the end, I am not letting you face it alone." Before Daniel could respond, another voice cut through the bridge. "Admiral, this is Captain Cole. I have an alternative suggestion." Walk to the center of the bridge and face Daniel directly. The Resolute can carry the signal. You and Dr. Dawson take the shuttle and clear the path. I will fly through and deploy the final command from inside the node. Daniel understood immediately. If you do that, you cannot escape. The blast will destroy everything within 100 kilometers. I know, smiled sadly. But the Resolute is already dying. Look at her. She has given everything she has. Let her finish the mission she started. Daniel looked around the bridge. The crew watched him with steady eyes. They had already accepted what was offering. They were ready to die so that others could live. There has to be a vote, Daniel said. We already voted, the censor officer replied. When you asked us if we should save the galaxy, we said yes. This is what yes looks like. Daniel felt tears building in his eyes. He had never been more proud of his people than in this moment. He said, his voice breaking, I will remember you, we all will. Just make sure the galaxy remembers what humans are willing to do for others. Turned to his crew. All hands, prepare for final approach. Admiral Dr. Dawson, you need to go now. Daniel and ran to the shuttle bay. They climbed into a small craft and launched into the chaos. Behind them, the Resolute turned toward the wall of swarm creatures and accelerated to maximum speed. Cole sat in his captain's chair and watched death approach. For humanity, he said softly, for everyone. The Resolute hit the wall like a meteor. The explosion tore through thousands of swarm creatures and created a gap in the formation. Through that gap, the signal of the final command erupted from the dying ship. The effect was immediate. Across the galaxy, every swarm creature stopped moving. The hive-mind connection shattered. Billions of creatures fell silent and drifted lifelessly in space. The swarm, the terror of 100 civilizations, was destroyed in a single moment. Daniel and watched from their shuttle as the light faded. Where the Resolute had been, there was only empty space and silence. He did it, whispered. They all did it. 1 year later, the galaxy had changed completely. The Galactic Council was dissolved. Its leaders, including Counselor N, were tried for crimes against sentient life. They would spend the rest of their days in prison, remembered as the beings who nearly destroyed civilization through their arrogance and cruelty. In place of the Council, a new interstellar assembly was formed. Every species had an equal voice. No one would ever again vote to sacrifice another species, and humanity stood at the center, respected and honored by all. Ambassador Laura Mitchell became the first leader of the assembly. She worked tirelessly to rebuild what had been broken and create a future where no species would ever feel alone. Admiral Daniel Carter retired to Earth. He built a small house on a hill overlooking the ocean and spent his days watching the waves. Dawson lived with him, and they grew old together in peace. On the anniversary of the battle, a memorial was held for Captain Cole and all the humans who had given their lives. Representatives from every species in the galaxy attended. They placed flowers in space where the Resolute had made its final flight. A young child asked her teacher why the humans had saved everyone after being betrayed. The teacher, a former council soldier who had fought against humans long ago, thought carefully before answering. Because that is what humans do, she said. They protect, even when it costs them everything, especially then. The child looked up at the stars and smiled. And across the galaxy, in every corner of space, humanity watched over their new family. They had been betrayed, abandoned, and condemned to death. But they had chosen mercy over vengeance, love over hate, and hope over despair. They had proven that the measure of a species was not how they treated their friends, but how they treated their enemies. And the galaxy would never forget.